Thank you.
You should have let our singer.
In the next 30 minutes, you're going to learn how innovators and visionaries prioritize their day. So you can do the same. Yes, this handout is a 3-pager. There's
3 pages to each.
Yeah. I put them separate because we have to kind of spread out a couple of the pages, so I kept them loose, but it's three different pages to the handout. You know, I think we can keep the lights on. Thank you, Bill. So, in collecting the resources, JFK, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Gandhi, Bill Paulson, I mean, all the greats. So your handout, there's a 2-page sheet that's kind of the main idea behind this presentation is this called, I call it the daily sheets. So this is a 2-page template, a document, and of course time management is very personalized. You can take whatever is of interest from this presentation and do it your own way. Some people have it on their phones, some people have a day planner. So this 2-page sheet basically collects all of the important metrics of our lives. And those are the 3 sections to this presentation. Identifying the roles that you play, all the different hats you wear, goals, and managing projects. So you'll have all that right at your fingertips to look at each day. And I'm not just the company president, I'm also a customer. I've got my book that I do every day as well. On my way here, I had my top plans and my priority. Actually, you'll like to know that my priority for the day is this workshop. So, okay. Yeah, you would hope you would be up there, right? So that you have the daily sheets. Now, one idea I had, I was reading a book that really interested me about the president's daily briefing. And so this is a very condensed, very secretive, important document of all the most important things around the world that the president gets briefed on each morning. So I started to think, well, I need something like that for me to know exactly what's most important for me, like if someone were to hand me my briefing. So that's how I came up with this. So the first concept being roles. Now, I think of roles as certainly all the different hats we wear. Usually I find most people have between 14 and 18 or 20 different roles they're juggling at any given time. So you can tell it's a big challenge to be able to transition between all these different roles, and you're doing it all day long. So we should define the role. It's basically a category in your life, a major area, daily or at least weekly, to be fulfilled, to keep on track of everything. Now, here's the role of a drill sergeant. A role. If you think about all the different roles you play, you're kind of like a little bit of a different person in all the different roles. You're still your core self, but you certainly bring things to the forefront. Now, of course, the attributes to be a drill sergeant from the Marines: tough, harsh, uncompromising, domineering, ruthless, unbending. Now, when she goes home to her family or relationships or other different roles, looks successful to have those same attributes. So we really have to be aware of how we transition between all these roles. And sometimes a lot of our problems come in not having a system, a way to be able to, to transition between all these roles, to decompress. A lot of us, it's going home from work and going back to our family life, where that's where we listen to some music or whatever works for you, meditation, booze, alcohol. Good. Now, I first got this idea from Tony Robbins. He had a program called Time of Your Life, and it was an audio set and a lot of the different time management systems. And I found that he really dug into, enjoying all those different roles. That's where the richness is, having all these different parts that we play. This was good in that day planner, but if I had it my other way, the way that works for me, and that's how I came. Before we get into the identifying roles, I like to see an interest we have. Usually, certainly there's a layered connotation here. The passions, something you somehow. The hobbies, as we all know, and interest. It could even be things that we haven't even done yet. We want to try. Maybe you're interested in trying sushi, or you want to do this or that. So, but it's important to have those on the list. You know, and actually on my website, on the handout, there's my address, the 10timesmoreorganized.com. There's some resources that are PDFs available, and that's one of them, is being able to print this out and list all your different passions, hobbies, and interests. Now, what effect do our passions, hobbies, and interests have on us? An example of Steve Jobs, when he was in college, he was very much into calligraphy. And I forget the name of the college, but it was one of the top schools for calligraphy. And he had a love for that, the cleanness of the fonts, and it ended up being a real big part of the aesthetic of Apple, because that impressed him so much. So these things, you really shouldn't just sweep them under the rug. You know, learn to seek out those things, because you never know how they can affect you. Also, some of these passions, hobbies, interests could become your roles. So you never know. I have an interest in backgammon, and I've started playing. I got more and more interested in getting into it a lot more, and perhaps that started as an interest, maybe move up to a hobby, and maybe someday I'll be a tournament player. Who knows? Also, Warren Buffett, of course, we know is a big bridge player. So, 4 types of roles in what I like to do. The first area is the core roles, and at any given time during this next couple minutes, you can jot down a couple things on your worksheet. There's a handout here. You're all these other things to all these other people. You're a person, mind, body, and spirit. And of course, everybody has a different way of looking at it. Everyone's different. So, you know, some people would list their religion there, or spirituality. For mind, it could be that you're into meditation, or ways in which you dedicate to learning more. And body is usually one, being healthy, nutrition, exercise. Those would all be related to the core ones. Of course, that's the biggest issue I see with coaching. It would be selfish to work on yourself and spend any time. You always want to be giving to your kids and to everybody. Plan a spa getaway in your kid's high school graduation. But you can have a balance where you would have it all. The more you can have to offer, the better for everybody you care about too. So those are some core roles. And examples of wealth building, that sort of thing, receiving, philanthropy. Oh, just flip that. And, you know, even there's a high school student that I use as a case study. And for her to have a role of money management, or money smarts, I think is what it was called. Something where it kind of gives you permission to be able to work on that for yourself. Well, it could still be a role. Also, an important part of this is you can put roles down that are future roles. You know, maybe you become an entrepreneur. Now you got a bunch of different roles that add right in immediately. Marketing, selling, speaking, presenting, networking, technical things with websites. Personal roles are what you would usually think of as a role. You know, a hobbyist. Also could be adjectives. You're an adventurer, you're a helper, however you see yourself. Of course, you want to keep it positive. You don't want to have a role as being the taxi driver, you know, for the kids, or the maid for the house. Oh, and sometimes roles are very surprising. Like, you probably didn't know that I was a champion. My goal was 20 medals, but I only got 18. But I do music groups at the nursing home also, and one lady, I showed this to her. I don't think she got that it was a joke, but she said to me, "What happened?" And actually,
I wonder how much 18 gold medals weigh.
yeah, I don't know. Get exercising, you could find out. All right, so here's a couple examples of some case studies, some role lists. We've got our quadrant here. This guy is 36 years old. These case examples they're a mix of experiences I've had, past coaching clients, and there's some fiction to make it a good part of the book. My book, really, I took all of these ideas and put it to a story. So the story is a small biotech company that gets time management coaching. So it follows each of the different people that go along. The exciting thing about coaching, using this kind of as a framework for me, is that people will list out what they see as roles, And then once you start exploring, they tend to add a lot more that are even the better ones, that you're not even seeing. Like, for example, this one, Christian, TM, Transcendental Meditation, he says he's a genius. He's thinking big, good. Body, he's got that area. You don't have to get too particular, too fancy. You can just have body, I work on my body, now I know. Personal, those basic ones, surfer, recovering addict. So that perhaps wouldn't be one that might come up at the beginning, but hey, that's something that's important in your life. Every day you're working on it. That should be, you should consider it a role. B-movie fan, bad movies. That's more I just stole from myself. And the professional, and in this example, this guy found that he really wanted to be creating his own business. So that's where some of these other professional roles came up of company founder and that sort of thing. Tracy, she's a director of leadership, so very corporate, and it came up with this having the cancer in her background, where she survived cancer. She's a board member. This is another one of her giving receiving roles. That she didn't list yoga instructor or roller derby, that she joined a roller derby team. I was even exploring all the nicknames that they have for the roller derby ladies, and one of them I found was Holly Wanna Crack Ya. So you've got to have a nickname if you're in the roller derby. And she put adventurer as one of her roles too. And here's the high school student. We have lesbian, LGBTQ advocate, journaler, student mentor, which she's doing at school, money smarts, volunteer, and so she was a serious musician, so all of those roles related to her preparation to go into college. College prep as being a role where that's a lot of work. That's an area you need to focus on. Okay, and I wanted to mention the back of the handout too. I'm really at my beginning stages of my business. I'm looking to pay my dues. So anyone who's interested in getting 3 free sessions, half-hour time management-based sessions, you can just text my number there anytime today, and then we can do that. And all I ask is a little short video testimonial to add to my website and get on my start. Also, if anyone has any places of speaking engagements, opportunities, please talk to me about that. I'm very willing to do that pro bono too, for sure. All right, now goals is another part of this sheet. Of course, if we have any questions, but it seems, if you have any questions, let me know. Now goals, decide what you want, then write it down. I like this one too. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. In my book, I mentioned 5 different goal types: distinction goals, deadline goals, bucket list, sky's the limit, number 1 goal. So a little bit about each one, because a couple of these will pertain to your sheet, the daily sheet. Distinction goal is just a rule for your life. Aerobic exercise 1 times 30 daily. Very clear exactly what it is. Deadline, it's got that by October 31st, scuba certified. Bucket list, we know. Sky's the limit. This is thinking big. I want to be the opening voice of Saturday Night Live and yell, and live from Saturday night, Sky's the limit, that's that one. And the number 1 goal, I got the idea from Brian Tracy. He talks a lot about, goal setting and the importance of writing them down, but also this idea of choosing one that really kind of magnetizes all of your goals into one direction. It works on everything at once. If you can narrow it into one big one. Like an example might be, I'm a world-class problem solver, something like that. You could put your income, you could put whatever you think is gonna make everything activated at once. Good. Project management, give you a little bit. I came up with this system from my own musical compositions. I started to look back and what were the best compositions I did, the books I've written that really went smoothly, that I'm proud of. And one of them was a snare drum method book. And this is how I came up with it. I started to say, well, what stages did I have to go through? Identifying the spark. This would be the spark. He says, okay, for me, that would be identify the problem. So everything was sort of like flipped. It was kind of funny. I'm more from that creative background. And then the gathering stage. There was a book by Twyla Tharp, a great choreographer, who said she would just start by getting a cardboard box, slapping the label on it, and she'd start throwing stuff in there. A couple CDs, a couple fabric that you need, a picture. Brainstorming, just asking as many questions as you can. Then you get to the structure stage. How many chapters will this book be? How many people are going to be at this party? You know, the big brass tacks kind of things. The action stage, of course, when you've got to do a lot of the work. Refining stage, which a lot of people skim over, especially in these days. I find that millennials struggle with the refining stage. They've got it done, all right, it's pretty good, it's all set. But that's the real richness, to be able to keep zeroing in if time allows. Stephen King had a great quote about a poem that he loved, and he was saying that the structures and the form within the poem were like tight cables. You could almost hear them hum. Everything was so packed together and kept itself intact, refining the heck out of it till it shines. And the completion stage. So you can think about all the different projects you have. I usually categorize large projects and small. Large could be 1 year. 1 year from now, what is my business? What are the metrics for my business? What are the metrics for my health, for my kids? Small could be, you know, even this presentation here. I've got the papers here. I went through the system for this. You know, I need to gather all the resources. I need to, you know, what do we want to have here for the Rotary Club? Those sort of things. So we need a plan. That is really the handout, the daily sheet is our big plan. My son the other morning, he's 9, he's very into basketball. One of my guys is way into soccer, the other is a nut about basketball. So I was trying to get him ready for school. He wasn't getting up. So I figured I would talk in his own language. I took out his basketball clipboard. So I made a plan for him that he could execute. You get out of bed, now you're here. Now you go pee. You go over here, I'll set a screen, you can go do your hair. And you get your breakfast and get dressed, and then you get to the bus. So, good. Now we're close to the closing part here. I'm surprised this worked out perfectly time-wise. We're going to, since this is a musical group, of course I brought my guitar to do a little closing song. Are there any final questions before we do our closing song about anything I've said today? Such a great audience.
So these forms you would do daily, is that?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I would. I usually just bring them to Staples and Xerox them, and then I got a bunch of them, and then I just have them laid out like this. We didn't really talk about the top priority here. That's, of course, you know, just the act of going through and thinking and committing the top thing. What is the biggest thing that you can do today, get done, that you would feel great about when you lay your head down and go to sleep? The next area, bolded again, is the top outcomes. You know, these are the more important, the pending things. Miscellaneous could be anything. I put some stuff about I want to make fish chowder, and you know, so I put some things there. And then the large projects. Small projects, I've got Rotary speech right here, and the due date today. I'm working on a Thinkific e-course from my website based on all this stuff. I'm doing a couple other workshops I'm working on. I'm considering writing a book that relates lessons you would learn from horror movies about time management. So that's on the haven't started area. And then a bullet notebook. I found that that's very popular, having a little physical notebook with this kind of thing. My struggle is that I want it to be personalized. I don't want it to just be a custom-made day planner with whatever they think is important. I want exactly what I think is important. That's why I went through all this.
What do you do with all these sheets?
Well, usually, you know, you could put them in a binder or really just trash them. I mean, I kind of see them as scratch pad anyway.
But you don't go back and look and see what you set out to do versus what you did?
Not really. I mean, I did that for a while. I found that I wasn't looking at them. But it is a good record, you know, of what you did that day. It's more like I'm looking from here on, you know. But certainly it could be a good archived information.
Every week or one sheet every day?
Every day. Yeah, the side A and side B. You've got the date, and that's today. So you could just put it on your desk and, yes?
I'm looking at this in my profession as a cop, and I think this is such an awesome page for anybody in industry. Maybe you think about it, to open it for public, because when we come, we have this goal set out, and we have 1 day or 1 week accomplish it.
Hmm.
And this is what is so useful for many people who is struggling with them, not focused enough. People with ADD or different, mental problems,
Yep,
addicts, for example.
you're right.
Alcoholics, for example. Other people who is not disciplined enough to have it. And this is awesome.
Good, I'm glad. That is, because it's very concrete, right? You can,
Yep, yep.
good point. Well, this was great fun to present for you. I want to close with a song, get my guitar. I have some instruments if anyone wants to, we're going all out. I am a music therapist, of course, so. Put a couple here. We got a drum if anyone is dying to play a drum, kind of quiet, on the quiet end.
Where'd you go to music school?
I went to UMass Amherst and also Anna Maria.
Where's Anna Maria?
It's, yeah. It's a beautiful school, yeah, for the music therapy part. I'll just put this drum here, if anyone's breaking. Good.
We just lost our Rotary member that is a singer. Do you want to join us?
What I should do is bring you to my music therapy gigs, and then when you sing, they'll need to order more music therapy. Well,
They hear me sing later.
yeah. It's like the Three Stooges where they plant all the ants and bugs in the person's house and then show up as exterminators. Yeah, I'm a big Three Stooges fan. What? Oh, yeah. Bass, C, bass, C. Mickey Mime, oh, oh. Well, I put together some of the things we talked about today, so I figured we needed something to wrap it up and to have a climax. Good. Yeah. Oh, Dr. King had a dream. JFK had a vision. Customize your daily sheets. That's a wise decision. Always spent some time together. You define your priority. Oh, I like the Needham Rotary so much. I wave my regular. Yeah. Well, Warren Buffett's a stud. He's worth 90 billion bucks. If you haven't identified all your roles, your self-awareness sucks. So don't be hoity-toity and think you know it all. Oh, opt into my email list and you will have yourself a ball. Well, 10 times more organized. That's my business name. When you get my coaching, things will never be the same. Well, thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure meeting you all. Oh, no more wasting tomfoolery. Now you can have a productive fall. All right. Thank you.